All right, stat students. So we are just going to be talking about the skills and concepts you need to make sure you understand to be successful on our upcoming test. I am planning on that test happening Thursday. So right now it is Tuesday. So Thursday the 25th is when you're going to be taking this, February 25th. You'll be taking this test. Okay, so these bullet points here are the things you need to make sure that you understand how to do. A lot of these skills are this practice worksheet here that was due last Friday sort of encompasses all the things that you need to know how to do. Okay, firstly, you need to be able to match the symbols to their correct names. So on here, I've listed out all the symbols, and part of this was you're going to have to name them again. It's not tell me the name, okay, this first symbol is mu. That's not good enough. You have to know what it actually means. It means population mean, okay? And then we have several words that these four of these actually mean the word mean or average. So you have to be able to tell the difference between what those are, okay? So that will be multiple choice where you'll have all of the symbols lined up over here, and then you'll have a word bank to multiple choice select from and move over there. So I don't think we should have much trouble with that, but it is something that you need to understand how to do, okay? Next, know how to identify a statistic or parameter in a problem scenario. So we should have the definition of a statistic and a parameter. Remember, a statistic describes a sample. A parameter describes a population. That was also one of the questions on here, which is explain the difference between a statistic and a parameter. You had practice problems 5, 6, and 7, where you have different values. These bold-faced numbers are the ones that you have to give. You're giving the symbols for, and you're saying which one is the parameter, which one is the statistic, okay, for each one of these, okay? So you have to be able to know how to do that. Next, we want to talk about this. Understand the definition of a sampling distribution, how it's created. So that's what this example right here is talking about, where you have this this dot plot over to the right. And this is a sampling distribution. How do we know it's a sampling distribution? Well, we're taking an SRS of 20 of these AP statistic, or no, excuse me, of 16-year-old females at the school to measure their height. So this is the distribution of heights for these females, which I think, distribution of heights for the females. So you need to understand why is this a sampling distribution? Well, a sampling distribution, we take a sample, calculate a statistic about that sample, and then put it on a graph like this. And we do that many, many times. And this question right here is extremely important. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that you're going to have a question on the test that's going to ask sort of what does each dot represent in here? Okay, what does each dot represent in here? Well, each dot represents a sample of size 20 and the mean of that sample. Okay, for instance, this dot right here means I took a sample of 20 16-year-old females, and their average height was about 65 inches. So that's very important, okay? It says, suppose that the average, so here's the next topic as well. Understand what makes a statistic unbiased or biased estimators of the parameters. So it says, suppose we take an average height of 20 girls in the sampling distribution and it's 65. Would this be a biased or unbiased estimator of the true population? So we've drawn these lines. If I can find my draw tool shape. Yeah, here we go. Been drawing these lines. So if I say 65 right here, that is the sample we got. And if I duplicate that, make one more, we see that the mean of this distribution is actually about 64, right? Let me make that orange, about right here. And so we can see that these are pretty dramatically different. And so it says, would this be biased or unbiased estimator of the true population? Why? Well, based on the information that we got, based on this one sample, it would be biased, right? Because it's not accurately estimating, because look how much of a difference that actually is in this distribution. So we would describe that as bias. It's when the mean of the sampling distribution is different than the true population proportion, okay? So that's sort of the idea there. You need to make sure you understand what makes it biased, what makes it unbiased, okay? All right, understand how sample size affects variability of a standard deviation, variability or standard deviation of a sampling distribution. Well, that is when we increase the sampling distribution or the sample size, the standard deviation goes down. When we decrease it, it goes up. So you're going to have seen some questions in these practice problems about that. That happened here when we went from 1 box of cereal to 5 boxes. I think in the practice set 2, we see that happen here. Here we take a single bottle, and then it says suppose we take 40. And then right here from part C, in order to reduce the standard deviation by half, how large would the sample size need to be? So there's a lot of questions in here. There'll be one question or so on the test where you're having to change the standard deviation or modify it in some way. And you're just going back to your formulas for standard deviation on that, which are those rules that we wrote down, okay? Finally, you need to be able to perform probability calculations on sampling distributions. So that would be pretty much the majority of the test, I would say, is going to be just that. You are going to have to answer the questions like we're seeing here, where we're doing the calculations. That's taking your calculator and you're doing menu 5, 5, 2. You had to have done the checks to make sure that you can do the calculation, but doing these checks here, and then you're calculating the probabilities, okay? For AP students, you're going to want to make sure if it's a free response question and you're having to do these calculations of probability, you need to show that you have checked the conditions and that they've been met, okay? AP students, also don't forget on your formula sheet, you have the rules partially on here for how to get your standard deviation and mean. You can't forget central limit theorem, of course, to make sure that to show that there is normality for means. You have to show central limit theorem. For proportions, you have that n times p greater than or equal to 10, n times 1 minus p greater than or equal to 10 for normality. Then you also have to check for independence with the 10% rule. So all of that stuff needs to be checked when you're doing a free response question. Okay, and we've practiced that. Go back and review some of the work that you've done and shown for a lot of these questions here. For that, we have to do those checks, especially for those free response questions. A lot of the multiple choice questions, if they don't say cannot calculate or anything, if they give you all answers, then you don't really need to do the checks because you know that an answer should occur on those, okay? That's going to be our just sort of a brief review over what's due or what's happening on the test, which is coming up in a few days. This worksheet here, this is worksheet, we're calling this practice 2. Okay. This is going to be due Wednesday. So today's Tuesday, Wednesday, this is going to be due. I've made that change on Kitum. So just make sure that you're getting that chipped away. If you have any questions about those, please reach out to me and we'll update that for you, okay? And we'll help you out with that, sorry. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end that there.